Ever had that feeling? You lay out an idea, perfectly clear in your head, and it just lands completely wrong or gets totally misunderstood,
Oh, absolutely. It's incredibly frustrating, isn't it?
right? Well, today we're kind of digging into that, looking at it through the eyes of someone who dealt with it under pretty intense pressure, Jen Psaki.
Yeah, the former White House press secretary. We're looking at her book, trying to pull out some real practical takeaways on communication, building trust, handling those tough conversations.
Her experience is definitely unique.
For sure. It gives you a different angle on skills we all need, really.
And hey, if you're interested in exploring different perspectives like this, you should check out Mindful Moments on our YouTube channel. It uses AI to analyze books and really gets you thinking.
Good resource. So back to the book. One of the first big things that jumps out is credibility, establishing it right away.
Yeah, for Psaki, walking into that briefing room, the number one thing was showing she was connected to President Biden, like really connected.
Exactly. It wasn't just about knowing the policies inside out, though that mattered. It was conveying, to the press and then everyone watching that she genuinely spoke for him.
Even though she knew many of those reporters already, right, from previous roles.
Right, but she still had to, cement that specific role as his spokesperson. It just shows how vital that initial perception is. You need people to trust you're aligned with the message.
And it wasn't just about being a puppet either. She made a point right from the start about having a shared goal with the press.
Delivering accurate information. She actually said, but we have a common goal, which is sharing accurate information with the American people.
That's a smart move. Finding that common ground, even when you know things might get tense later, it builds a bit of a foundation.
Totally. And she was upfront about disagreements, too. Didn't pretend they wouldn't happen.
Yeah, she said something like, there will be moments when we disagree.
And there will certainly be days where we even disagree for extensive parts of the briefing. Just laying it out there. Honesty from the get-go.
She ties that back to the president's goal, too, doesn't she? About transparency.
She does. Quote, his objective and his commitment are to bring transparency and truth back to government, to share the truth, even when it's hard to hear.
So that upfront honesty, even about potential conflict, actually helps build trust in the long run.
Yeah, think about it. You trust someone more if they tell you the hard stuff, not just what you want to hear, right?
Definitely. Now, moving beyond the briefing room podium, the book talks a lot about understanding your audience on a more personal level. Her campaign door-knocking days come up.
Oh, yeah. Those stories are great. She learned so much just by, knocking on doors, not just reciting points, but reading people fast. Body language, tone.
Adapting on the fly.
Exactly. She realized, all the voter data in the world couldn't replace just seeing how someone reacted and adjusting her pitch right there. That adaptability is huge.
Think about when you've done that, adjusted how you're talking based on someone's face or how they're standing.
We all do it, maybe without thinking. But she really honed it.
And she carried that into the White House. Even with a room full of journalists, she remembered who the real audience often was.
That's such a key point. The reporters are intermediaries, right? Sometimes the message was really for Congress or for specific groups or just the general public tuning in.
Keeps you from getting sidetracked, I guess. Not getting pulled into arguments that don't actually reach the people you need to reach.
Right. You have to keep that end goal, that target audience in mind.
The book's also really practical about the limits of communication. I like the phrase she uses, not a comms problem.
Yes. Recognizing that sometimes the issue isn't how you're saying it, it's the thing itself. The policy.
You can't sell something unsellable, basically.
Exactly. And knowing the difference shows, strategic thinking. It's honest, too. You ever try to explain something you didn't really buy into yourself? It's tough.
Oh, yeah, it shows. And that story about the frozen yogurt with her daughter, that was brilliant.
So relatable. Trying to soften the blow about a demanding new job by offering froyo.
And the kid just focuses on the treat. Totally missed the point of the conversation.
It's perfect, isn't it? It shows you need to understand your audience, yes, but also what motivates them, what might distract them. Good intentions aren't always enough if the method is wrong for that specific audience.
Which leads right into her 3 principles for strategic communication.
Right. Identify the audience, figure out how to engage them.
And lower the barriers to that engagement.
Simple, but powerful if you actually follow through. It forces you to be deliberate, audience first. And the froyo story is just a funny warning that lowering barriers needs to make sense for them, not just you.
The book also really digs into preparation. Her daily routine sounds intense.
Yeah, lots of reading, scanning news, check-ins. She says it wasn't exactly mindfulness,
No kidding.
but it was a conscious effort to be ready, just constantly gathering info. How do you prep for big conversations? It makes a difference.
I love the detail about the physical note card. Sharpie and a note card, even with email existing.
It's kind of grounding, isn't it? In a digital world, having that physical anchor for your main points helps cut through the noise.
And Chant the Rapper story. That was awkward but illuminating.
Oh, man. Yeah. Just a quick search could have saved some embarrassment.
And maybe open up a better connection.
Totally.
Wow.
It's just basic respect, right? Take a minute to learn something about who you're meeting. Shows you care.
And when dealing with complex stuff, she talks about tapping experts.
Right. But not just dumping the problem on them. Going to them prepared.
With specific questions, respecting their time.
Exactly. You get much better insights that way.
Then there's the practice element. Mock briefings. Moots, she calls them.
Crucial for high-stakes stuff.
Yeah.
Practicing the answers, yes, but also just the feel of it. She even mentions practicing walking to the podium in heels.
It's the whole performance. Builds confidence, helps you anticipate curveballs.
Minimizes surprises, maximizes readiness. That's the goal.
And it's that repetition, that feedback loop, that really sharpens your communication style over time.
Absolutely. It's a skill. You got to work at it, listen to feedback, keep refining.
Now, shifting to difficult conversations, the book has some really good stuff there. The Rahm Emanuel examples stood out.
Yeah, that dynamic. Very direct feedback, apparently.
Blunt, maybe, but also loyal. And that combination built trust.
Knowing where you stand, even if it's tough, can be better than uncertainty or false politeness.
She also talks about taking bad news, not getting the communications director job she wanted initially.
Right, and learning about it indirectly. That sounds rough.
But she frames it as learning resilience, how you handle setbacks.
Which is so important. Things don't always go your way. Being able to process it and move on. Vital skill.
And accepting that difficult conversations are just, well, difficult. They're uncomfortable.
Trying to avoid the discomfort often makes it worse, doesn't it?
Definitely. Sometimes, like she notes with the president after tragedies, just being there, that quiet support, says more than words.
Presence matters. It's a form of communication itself.
Which ties into that story about her grandmother's illness being kept secret. That quote.
You are always communicating, even when you say nothing.
Yeah. Powerful. Silence sends a message too. Often not the one you intend.
It can imply a lack of trust or trying to control things. Openness is usually better, especially with people close to you.
Okay, let's talk about communicating across divides. The whole Psaki bomb thing with Peter Doocy.
Right, those exchanges became kind of famous.
Right.
Contentious, often.
But her goal wasn't just to fight, was it? It was strategic.
Yeah, it seemed like managing the back and forth to land the White House's points. Using facts, sometimes a bit of humor, to counter the narrative. Not necessarily to win him over.
But to make sure the wider audience heard their side clearly.
Exactly. And interestingly, despite those clashes, she still talks about the value of connecting in person, even with people you disagree with strongly.
Trying to build bridges, maybe? Create conditions for people to think for themselves rather than just hammering them with arguments?
Yeah, facilitating understanding rather than forcing agreement. That personal connection can sometimes soften the edges, make dialogue possible.
The book definitely flags social media as a challenge for that kind of nuanced talk.
Oh, for sure. Everything's so fast, so reactive, and misinformation spreads like wildfire. It's hard to have a thoughtful exchange.
And that idea of being boxed in by people's assumptions, the Obamacare example was fascinating.
Right, how the policy's origins, being linked to the Heritage Foundation initially, got totally lost once Obama championed it. People hear things through their existing filters.
It shows how powerful those political identities are. The message itself almost doesn't matter sometimes.
It's a huge communication challenge in a polarized world. Which brings us back to
your credibility.
Exactly. It's the bedrock. If people don't trust you, the message itself doesn't stand much chance. You earn that trust through consistency, honesty.
All these takeaways from her time in the hot seat, they're really useful for anyone, I think. Honesty, knowing your audience, preparing, trying to connect, even when it's hard.
It really drives home that communication isn't just about talking at people. It's about fostering understanding, building that trust, making people feel genuinely heard. That improves everything.
Absolutely. Well, if you found this interesting, definitely subscribe to our podcasts. We explore topics like this all the time.
Yeah, and share this one if you know someone who might find these communication tips useful.
There's also a link if you want to check out the book yourself and support the author's work. But most importantly, maybe take a moment to think critically about your own communication.
What's one small thing you could change?
Right. How can you say what you need to say, but maybe with a bit more impact, a bit more connection?
Maybe just focus on listening in your next conversation. Really listening, probing, asking questions, making sure the other person feels you actually got it. Perhaps that's the most powerful thing you can do.